Hi, my name is Augie DeAugustinis. I currently serve on the board of the Myositis Association. My father, Augie, has been dealing with the effects of Inclusion Body Myositis, or IBM for short, on his life for the last 14 years, and he's now facing the rest of his life in a wheelchair with significant care required to do some of the most basic things that you and I take for granted. There is no cure for IBM, so there's not much that I've been able to do to make a difference in my dad's life other than love and support him well. What would make a difference going forward is supporting the Myositis Association as it supports patients with myositis and their families across the nation. TMA is leading the way, investing in research to identify new therapies and a cure for IBM and other forms of myositis. What follows after this is an interview with my father, Augie, where he tells you about his struggle and his journey with IBM in his own words. Please take time to watch and consider joining me in donating to this FunFitFlex campaign and the Myositis Association. Thank you very much.
I'm Augie DeAugustinis. I live in Gainesville, Georgia, and I'm a retired airline pilot, and I have Inclusion Body Myositis.
So, Dad, thanks for joining us here today. I've got a few questions I want to ask you about your journey with myositis. So, first question, tell us, what is IBM? What are the odds of getting IBM, getting this disease? And is there a cure?
IBM stands for Inclusion Body Myositis. That's a mouthful. It's a progressive degenerative muscle disease that generally starts in the quadriceps and finger flexors and then progresses from there to other skeletal muscle all throughout the body. It's a very rare disease. Only about 8 people out of 1,000,000 ever come down with it. That puts it in the category of being an orphan disease, which means that there's so few people that have it, there's not a lot of research or funding to look into it.
So, Dad, is there a cure for IBM?
Well, because it's an orphan disease, we have very few researchers looking for a cure, even though the ones that are in the field of myositis research are looking diligently for a cure. But as of right now, they first need to discover what causes IBM before they can ever come up with a cure. But IBM is also different than the other 2 forms of myositis in that they have a treatment available. IBM has no effective treatment. So there's no treatment nor a cure for this disease.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with myositis.
My journey began back in 2007 when I had a lab test that was showing abnormal liver function. And my doctor ordered some additional tests which showed CPK levels, which is a measurement of muscle enzymes in the blood. Mine was about 4 times above normal. And that started the clock on a 16-month search with 5 different doctors trying to find answers about what was going on with my body. The first clue came with muscle weakness in my hands. My fingers started to show signs of weakness, and when I mentioned that to one of my doctors, she immediately connected the dots on what was going on with me and said I had IBM, and which that was then confirmed with a muscle biopsy. Since then, it has been a steady downhill progression of muscle weakness with my legs, going from just having foot drop and problems with tripping to now I can barely have enough leg strength to walk around inside the house. I spend a lot of my time getting from place to place in a wheelchair rather than trying to walk because my muscles have gotten too weak. My hand strength is now down to 0, and that affects your daily living activities with things like buttoning shirts, tying your shoes, pulling up a zipper, trying to do any of the fine motor skills are just impossible when you have no finger strength.
So you need a lot of help to live now. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. I would at this point not be able to live by myself. I need to have a caregiver available. Mainly for the kitchen, because the kitchen is a dangerous place for me. With my hands being so weak, it's dangerous for me to use any sharp object. I can't grab something out of the pantry and hold it because my hands are too weak to hold it. So I need a lot of help with daily living activities, and it's going to continue to get worse.
So, Dad, if there's no cure, what does the future hold for you with IBM?
The future is, it's not going to get any better. Um, I like to tell, when people ask me that, I say this is the best day that I'm going to have, going forward. From here on out, it's a downhill journey. I'm going to need increasing levels of help with getting dressed, and at some point, my legs will become so weak that I will require a Hoyer lift, which is a device used to lift a patient from a wheelchair and move them to either the toilet or move them into bed or into a recliner. So I'll need a Hoyer lift. And also, I'm also having problems with something called dysphagia. And dysphagia is difficulty swallowing because the muscles at the base of your tongue become weak, and it's difficult to get food down the esophagus, and it oftentimes results in choking. And I've had several choking episodes. And with people with IBM, oftentimes the dysphagia will get so bad that they can't eat any food at all without choking. Therefore, they require a feeding tube. And so that's it sounds like it's a pretty bleak outlook, but people with IBM all have hope that someday they'll find a cure.
So, what do you want people to know about myositis? What can they do to help?
My hope is that myositis will at some point become as well known as Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. Everybody in the country knows what ALS is. Interestingly, IBM and ALS are very similar. The symptoms are almost identical. They both result in total disability. But Lou Gehrig is a lot more prevalent, gets a lot more attention, and has a lot more funding available for research. At this point, they don't know the cure, or they don't know the cause of either disease. And so my hope would be that the public in general would become more aware of what myositis is, and so that it can be talked about at the same level of interest as ALS. I also would hope that the information about myositis and in particular IBM, because there is no treatment for it, would become more well known in the medical community, because it's a very difficult disease to diagnose, because so few doctors, especially out in rural communities, have ever even heard of the disease. So unless you're at a big hospital like Johns Hopkins or Mayo Clinic, where they know about it, most people will go to doctors that they don't have a clue what's going on with them. So both the medical community and public in general, I wish there would be more public awareness of what we're dealing with, because this is a silent disease that is totally debilitating.
As I understand it, the Myositis Association has made a real difference in helping patients with IBM and their families. So, how has it made a difference for you? How has it helped you?
The Myositis Association has made a big difference, and I was very blessed because I became aware of the Myositis Association early on in my journey with IBM. And from my first conference in 2009, started my educational awareness of what this disease is all about, and leading to my involvement with the Myositis Association, including 7 years on the board of directors. But one of the real benefits of the Myositis Association is the medical advisory board that they have to advise them on all medical issues related to the three kinds of or I guess 4 kinds now of myositis. And these doctors are made up from experts from around the world and tops in their field. And that's really gave me the education that really helped me educate my doctors back here at home. Because as I would learn things from conferences and online from the TMA website, I would share that with my doctors and help them to learn. And then they're in a position to help other doctors within their practice learn. So each time a patient does that, it increases awareness a little bit more. So the other thing that the Myositis Association has done very well, and I watched them over the years, they use their fundraising money towards research. They invest heavily every year into different research projects that bring us a step closer to finding either a treatment or a cure for the different types of myositis.
So, Dad, last question. What would you like people to do? What action would you like them to take to affect change for the future to help people like you with myositis?
I would love to see more people get involved by becoming members of the Myositis Association. You do not have to be a patient with myositis or a family member to join TMA. You can increase your own awareness and just show public support by joining. It's a free membership to sign up with TMA, but at the same time, it would really be wonderful if people across the country would just take a minute or two to send in a small donation to TMA. We get enough people sending in small amounts, it grows into a large amount of money for research. And TMA has just been so helpful to my wife and I and my whole family over the years that through their efforts and support, the access to the medical doctors that they have at their on the advisory board, it is they have just been a wonderful support. And they also sponsor support groups around the country that allow patients with myositis to get together and just find comfort gathering together to support one another. So joining TMA is probably one of the best things that you can do. If you're seeing this right now, look up the Myositis Association or TMA and join up. It's free, and you would be helping people like me and many others that have this debilitating disease.
Thanks again for watching and listening to my dad's story and journey with IBM. I appreciate it. If you feel led to help out and to help the Myositis Association, go back to the post that you found this link on, and you will find a link to the FunFitFlex campaign that I am leading to raise money for the Myositis Association. You can click through to that and donate at that link. Thank you again.